Okay, welcome to the latest United Pubcast. Thank you everyone for tuning in. If you are tuning in live, you should have absolutely no problems. If you are watching on replay, fingers crossed things work out okay. If it is buffering, just maybe give it an hour or two, then come back to the show. But fingers crossed all the problems are resolved. But a little bit of patience would be very, very, very sort of pleasing. And if you are watching the video, please like the video and please subscribe. But Larry, first time I've seen you today, or first time I've really spoken to you. How's things?
Yeah, good. Sorry,
Is that upside down?
just thought I'd stay. I'm gonna stay COVID safe. So, because Tom, sometimes your germs they come through. They come through the YouTube video. So I thought I might just stay a little bit safe, be a little bit more cautious, and this is how I'll do it.
Look, you see, I went to the shop today. We had a bed delivered. Bought a bed like a month ago, and it got delayed because of lockdown. The trucks couldn't deliver. They finally delivered today, so I had to go and get bed in. And the local shops, the shopping centre, no such thing as a lockdown. I thought I was going to be the only one there. Thousands. No wonder the numbers aren't going down. But yeah, so from the title, we are sort of going to talk about Dean Henderson, David De Gea, the latest on that. The players have returned to pre-season training camp. They've not often they go to Scotland for pre-season. Usually it's America, Australia, Asia. So these exotic locations type of thing. They've gone up to sunny Scotland, but it has been sunny for them. So we'll touch a little bit on that. And the latest, there is a little bit of Premier League news, obviously the Harry Kane issue. And if we're talking Harry Kane issue, I think we've got to sort of throw Paul Pogba into that debate. There are a few comments in here already. Thank you for joining us, lads. Evening, Rob. George, we'll get into the conversation about goalkeepers now. We might as well. Heaton would have been third choice at Villa behind Martinez and Nyland, as well as so better off being third choice at United. I think his stage of his career as well, it's ideal. Could you imagine being a United fan and just being able to come back and retire at United, sit on the bench, best seats in the house sort of thing? And Josh has gone to Gea, Henderson, Heaton. Still can't believe Heaton has signed knowing he's going to be third choice. Which again, look, there is. We always had that debate with Sergio Romero. Did he have the ambition to sort of be number one, or was he just happy to be second choice? Because if you go throughout his career, he was very often second choice, except for Argentina, sort of thing. What do you think? Before we get into De Gea and Dean Henderson, thoughts on Heaton, and is there any issue with that? Is there a lack of ambition there, or is it just it's a non-issue for you?
Look, you could say it's a lack of ambition, but like he's 35 years of age. Like, what do you want him to achieve in his career now? Whatever he's achieved it's about as good as it's going to get. And I dare say finishing your career at Manchester United, where it all started for you, isn't the worst way to finish up, is it? And he's an older head in what's a pretty youthful squad. And I think that's just the best way to look at it. He fills a place, and that's really all he is. You could argue, what's Lee Grant doing there? I think that's more questionable than Tom Heaton. It hasn't made an appearance for United in the best part of 2 years.
It'll be interesting when the squad sort of at the end of the season, or I don't know if it happens at the end of the season or end of the transfer window or the start of the season, but when the squad gets registered, it'll be interesting to see if Lee Grant is included in part of a sort of squad registration, the same as Phil Jones, I guess, because Phil Jones has got off the plane in Scotland and wasn't on crutches, so it looks like he might actually be training. But George said, evening, George. And we'll go on to De Gea and Dean Henderson. We'll start with Dean Henderson because he had to miss out on the Euros due to injury. He was included in that provisional squad like Mason Greenwood, but then sort of pulled out through injury. And you thought, okay, he'll get himself fit. And a lot of people have him as the number one or who's likely to start in the Premier League over David De Gea. But now it is. I haven't read the story, but it's along the lines of he's still suffering from COVID, has that sort of long COVID. I don't know what you would really call it, but he's struggling from it, and it looks like he's going to miss the start of the season, which is advantage David De Gea. Unfortunately for Dean Henderson, in that case, you don't want to see someone get ill or injured. But in the situation that both goalkeepers find themselves in, it's a very nice stroke of luck for David De Gea. Like when Dean Henderson needed it when David De Gea went back to Spain for the birth of his child, Dean Henderson needed that bit of luck to get into the team. Is this the bit of luck that David De Gea needed to get back into the team and start the season strong?
Well, it definitely gives him an opportunity. If he plays well, I think there's nothing between them. They both have their obvious strengths and weaknesses. And funnily enough, I think the strength of one is the weakness of the other. And if you put them together, you'd probably have the world's best goalkeeper. But it is an opportunity for De Gea, who I still think is clearly number one, despite what Dean Henderson thinks of himself. And I mean that not in a disrespectful way. Good on him for believing in his own ability, but there almost seems a sense of self-entitlement that comes off from Dean Henderson. I don't know if you get that same vibe, Tom, but it almost feels like a bit of this arrogance of demanding to be number one at Manchester United. Like, with all due respect, he played well for Sheffield, but he made some errors last season. Let's have that right. So De Gea, if he starts the season well, I think it's his shirt to lose, really.
Do you think that bit on, and I haven't really thought, never really discussed it, but I know exactly what you mean. And yeah, not arrogance in a bad way, but do you feel that is Dean Henderson just his personality, or do you think it's a bit of a play, bit of a move by Dean Henderson to put pressure on the club and put pressure on David De Gea? Because David De Gea had it so easy for, God, the best part of a decade. Very easy, a young goalkeeper coming in. If you're looking at David De Gea ahead of you, you're thinking, I'm not really going to play. And it's almost just a bit of a, not PR move, but just sort of another tool at his disposal that he can use for, sort of use against David De Gea and sort of put pressure on Solskjaer, sort of to displace David De Gea. Because, as you say, there is, and I don't want to say arrogance in a bad way, but it is there. He is always saying, I'm going to be replacing David De Gea, I'm going to be the next United number one. And that is a great confidence thing. But sometimes, yeah, not in a bad way, but it does come across a little bit more than confidence sometimes.
It wouldn't surprise me. The agents are always in their players' ears. Everything Mino Raiola says, which is a much more extreme scale, but everything an agent says or a player says in the media has been discussed with the agent. There's no doubt, in my opinion, that, yeah, anything Henderson does say is to apply some sort of external pressure. It gets Twitter, you get people smashing their thumbs onto their mobile phones. And that's ultimately what it is. And you can argue it has worked at times. But he hasn't done enough. And I have no problem with arrogance. Conor McGregor is one of my favorite sportsmen of all time. But in saying that, you need to back it up. If you're going to talk the talk, then you got to walk the walk as well. And while he's been good, I wouldn't, he's fallen short of being undroppable, immovable, solidified his spot as number one.
Could you see a situation now where we're looking at our potential back four in Maguire, Varane, and potentially the two best fullbacks in the league, depending how you look at it? You're looking at, suddenly we've got the best back four in Europe. A lot of people are saying, could you see a situation where now De Gea starts the season well, just on, okay, he's a good goalkeeper, but obviously with the added luxury of having good defenders in front of him, could you see a situation now where De Gea starts the season very well? You look at our fixtures, those first 5-6 games. Look, I actually think they're quite tough fixtures when you sort of break them down individually. But on paper, you look at them, we should be getting almost close to maximum points in the first month or two of the season. Say we have a great start, we're top of the league and conceded only a few goals. It's almost the end of Dean Henderson where it's not really a question then, it's just all back on Team David De Gea.
Yeah, I've stuck with this the whole way through, Tom, and I think you'd agree with this. Henderson's the more sellable asset. You're looking at his age, you're looking at the fact he's English, you're looking at his wages. He's the one where United can demand a 30, 40 million pound transfer fee. There's no value in De Gea. United gave him a ridiculous contract, and I don't know why they did it, if I'm being entirely honest. As good as he was, 3 feet, like, he's the highest paid player in the Premier League next to Kevin De Bruyne. Like, it's madness. So when you take that into account and the fact that ultimately it is a goalkeeper, goalkeepers are important, don't get me wrong, but they shouldn't be the highest paid player in your squad ever. So unfortunately for United, because of De Gea's age and the wages, he's just not a sellable asset unless you're going to be out of pocket where you have an Alexis Sanchez scenario where United actually had to pay him to leave. Think of that. So if I'm Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, or in fact, if I'm the Glazers, or if you're in that director of football department, you're actually thinking, you know what? This one's the sellable asset. Give him his cup games, that being Henderson, and sell him, get a transfer value out of him, because De Gea, it's just not going to happen, unfortunately.
Well, Sam makes that point there in just regards to the wages. De Gea has to start with these wages. And while I would agree, Sam, it's hard when you do look back at the end of last season when Dean Henderson was starting again. You do have to apply context as to why David De Gea was away and maybe tricky for him to get back into the team. But he wasn't starting last year. Dean Henderson was given that chance while Dean Henderson is getting paid a lot of money as well, considerably less than David De Gea. So, Rob, agree with Tom. Most great keepers over the years have had great defence in front of them. It's the clutch moments in a game where you need them to step up. And I think that might be the case with the goalkeepers this year. You looked at David De Gea in recent seasons. You remember the games against Arsenal and Tottenham. He was the busiest man on the pitch. He was in and around and making record saves in terms of numbers. We could be hopefully in a situation this year where he's only touching the ball once every couple of weeks. And then it'll be a real sign of who's the top goalkeeper if you're only having to do one save a game, if you're able to deliver. But we'll move on to actually just one more comment here from George. So De Gea's wages are a reflection of where United were at the time. The only player at the time that was worth keeping at the club and almost rightfully demanded his wages. And I think that's a point, Larry, because we can't forget he was our best player for 3 or 4 years. And it wasn't just our best player, he was the best player by a mile. If we didn't have David De Gea in that sort of, 15 to 18 period, who knows where we would have been? I'm telling you, we would have been close to the bottom half of the table at times.
I take that point, but he was our best player in what was the worst United squad we've seen for 30 years. All right, so that's the thing. If United, like, think of that 07-08 side. If David De Gea is sitting in net, is anyone talking about him being our best player? The reality is no, right? He is a product of what United were at the time. So that part, I definitely agree with George. And was he the best player? Absolutely. But let's talk about that then. Why is the goalkeeper our best player? So that speaks to issues in front of the goalkeeper. So the fact that United didn't have the foresight to actually say, you know what, he is good, but we could probably get a goalkeeper for a better value here instead of giving this guy astronomical wages, they've put themselves in a predicament.
Yeah, no, look, we'll be definitely having this debate in weeks to come, and I'm sure even throughout the season, because at the moment there is no smoke around one of them leaving. So it looks like the goalkeeper debate won't be going anywhere, but we'll move further forward on the pitch to I don't want to say Phil Jones, but I did see a photo of Phil Jones, as I mentioned at the start of the episode. He wasn't on crutches when he got off the plane, so it looks like he's fit and ready to start pre-season training. And as I said, they have gone to Scotland. What are your thoughts on this? Because obviously the match was called off with a little bit of a COVID scare the other day, and I don't know if they've rearranged another game behind closed doors that hasn't been sort of publicised. I'm not sure. I'm hoping they have, whether that be in England, but they're obviously in Scotland now. Your thoughts on this move to Scotland? Do you think it's just to get away from Manchester, just to break sort of the training up and just a different visual for the players, or do you think it's not really necessary this close to the season? Obviously, it's not a long trip for them or anything, but do you see the reasoning behind a trip away this close to the start of the season?
I think it's just a change of scenery. United have generally done it throughout December and January as well. I think under Solskjaer, they went to, I want to say Dubai. They went to, so I think it's common practice. And you got to remember, these players are used to going to Asia, Australia, America in the preseason. They've been in the backyard. They're driving down the road and then going home. So, no, good for them. If it breaks it up, and with the whole COVID thing, it's probably to separate from Old Trafford and wherever they've been, so from Carrington, do a bit of a deep clean. A number of reasons for it, but I don't read too much into it. I don't think it's really an issue for the players.
Oh, yeah. No, well, my main positive from it, I've seen Scott McTominay is obviously back. A lot of the Euro players have returned, and Scott McTominay, I just think it's ideal for him going back training in sunny Scotland. Could you imagine how fresh he'll be for the match against Leeds? If he scored 2 in 3 minutes against Leeds last season after training camp in Scotland, he should hit 4 in the first half, I think.
Oh, 6 in 10 minutes, undoubtedly. He'll score all 6 goals. I'm excited about McTominay, He actually looks like did you see the photo of him the other day? He looks like he's put on a bit more size.
Well, there was a report, I think it was in the Athletic, so you have to say it's somewhat reliable, and it was along the lines of, and I don't know how this is physically possible, but they're saying along the lines of Scott McTominay is almost having a second growth spurt. They're saying they think physically he's not done growing. Do you think that is
seriously? I haven't seen this.
I'm not sure, but there was a report a couple of weeks ago saying like he's doing a lot of gym work. Obviously he'll get bigger. Because he sort of was quite a lean ladder when he was sort of growing up. But there were reports that he's having this, I don't know how you describe it, but almost a second growth spurt. And he is a huge guy. There was Ben Foster, I watched a podcast with him a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking when Watford played Man United, it would have been January in the FA Cup, I assume. All the Watford players were saying how impressive Scott McTominay was. Obviously, McTominay was captain on the day and got the goal in the 1-0 win, but they were really pleased, or not pleased with his performance, but impressed by his performance. So moving on, obviously those Euro players are back. Scott McTominay's back, Paul Pogba's back. We've seen Rafael Varane. He returned to Spain for Real Madrid training 2 weeks ago. And there's been this huge news about Harry Kane, which we might touch on at the end of the podcast, but all these players are back. Have you seen any photos of Paul Pogba? Is he training yet?
He's not, but the reports have suggested he's due back this week or today or the next 2 days. So I think he'll be at training. Why he got a longer break than Bruno Fernandes is a mystery. But
that's the thing. And we don't understand the politics of the dressing rooms. There'll be different reasons. He might have a personal reason, and it's all above board and absolutely no issues amongst the club and Paul Pogba and no ill intent either side. But from the outside looking at it, what do you think of him, always getting this extra time off and being away and the other players? And I'm sure he's putting in work outside on his own, 100%, no doubt. but there is doing your own work and there's working with the team, with the lads preparing for a season. Your
Well, we
thoughts
don't
on?
know that Bruno Fernandes didn't come back early, right? Who
Oh
knows?
yeah, but just what are your thoughts on? Because it's a bad look. I've got nothing. Again, he's probably putting in great work, and I'm sure he's fully prepared for when he has to return. And if he's available for Leeds, I'm sure he put 100% effort in. But it's just a bad look. I don't understand the reasoning behind it.
I think if he had 4 years left to run on his contract, we wouldn't be talking about having a bad look. I totally get where you're coming from, and it doesn't look great when Bruno Fernandes is coming back a week earlier, given he left the Euros the same time that Pogba did. But look, we're talking about a week's difference. Bruno didn't play last week either. Who knows what the detail, the devil will be in the detail, but I really don't want to read too much into it. I don't think there's much there. If he's going to be back this week, mate, then it is what it is. No,
Well,
no issues from me.
that's the thing. It has been quite sort of quiet in regarding that because you think it should be this sort of bombshell news and breaking news and sort of dominating Twitter, but it's not. It's Harry Kane who's refused to show up to training, and that is creating the headlines. Is it good? Is it bad? Is he putting pressure on Spurs? Should he be doing it? Should he be loyal to Spurs? Can City even afford him if they're going to spend 100 million on Grealish? Before we get into the debate of what Harry Kane's doing, if Jack Grealish is going to cost 100 million, which we assume that deal will get done, I rate Jack Grealish very highly, but I'm thinking Harry Kane's minimum 150 then, which if that is the case, he doesn't go.
Look, City can afford it. Whether they can afford it under financial fair play is another thing. Look, if they get Harry Kane, forget that video we did the other day where we were saying, oh, look, they should finish first. They'll definitely finish first. But look, I don't support that sort of behavior. But you know what? Look at it from the other side, okay? He's obviously had conversations with Daniel Levy prior to right now. I'm sure conversations started taking place up to 12 months ago. He's seeing Spurs in a gradual decline. They haven't gotten any sort of great length of reinforcements. He's in his peak. So if he's not going to leave now, when is he going to peak? And he's thinking about his legacy. If I'm putting myself in the player's position, he's given Spurs everything he possibly could. He's played injured. I think he has every right to leave. I really do. And I'm not going to, from a United or a football fan perspective, I'm not going to be hard on the bloke for not wanting to pursue a bit or having a bit of ambition in his career.
Yeah, no, look, it's hard to disagree. And look, Josh has said Spurs are not in a position where they need to sell him, but that's where I think they can demand a fee like 150 million, even more, I think, because how valuable he is. He's the English captain. He's the best English striker. City need a striker. I think they truly can demand that. And because they can, that is why I think City just can't get the deal done. Yes, technically they probably can get the deal done. But in terms of, I know UEFA and the Premier League are sort of deep into the City's accounts at the moment, so they'll be watching like a hawk. He's also said, imagine if it was Paul Pogba, which we're kind of getting a situation with Pogba, but yeah, not to the same extent. And look, yeah, we do expect Paul Pogba. I think he is back in Manchester. I think he was sort of at a team meeting, but it's just weird that he has had a couple of those days out. And Rob has Spurs in the driving seats. Spurs in the driving seat. Still got a couple of years on his contract. But is there anything else? Any other football news besides the Euros?
Are they in the driving seat though? Like they are from a financial position. They're not going to be forced to sell him financially. But if your captain isn't turning up to training, what does that do for the rest of the playing squad? Like surely he can't just come back into the fold. They're going to be, oh, we've been busting our ass for the last month. Where have you been? Like, that can't happen.
Well, look, there would be that, but at a club like Manchester City, at a club like Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, those clubs, this isn't banter thrown at Tottenham, but it is Tottenham. They look at Harry Kane. The players in that squad will look at him like a god. If not Kane, would be maybe Son would sort of have that status. Everyone else in that, can you name another Spurs player? I'm trying to think. Lamella left. I know Lamella used to play for them. Alderweireld left for them.
Alderweireld.
No, Alderweireld's left. So I'm telling you, like Spurs are these.
Has Alderweireld left?
He went to Saudi Arabia, I think.
Oh, cheers. There you go. I'm keeping up to date. They've got the fullback who was meant to be the best fullback since sliced bread, Reguilon.
Yeah, well, is he still there? Or did he go back to Madrid? Or
No,
I think
he's still there.
Tottenham. But that's what I mean. You look up to Harry Kane. He has that status at that club where because they respect him so much, he could get away with that. If he does walk into a Manchester City dressing room, he can't get away with that. And that's obviously his power play, saying, well, if things don't go my way and I don't get my move, well, I'm still welcome back here because I'm the best player here. where
And you know what? If he was linked to United, I guarantee there'd be United fans right now saying, "I don't want that sort of behaviour coming to our club." So
oh no, that's the thing. Well, we always like it when another player. I remember when Marcus Rojo throw his toys out of the pram when he was at Sporting Lisbon to force move. We loved it. But yeah, if it's a United player, yeah, look, Man United football fans are full of hypocrites. Robin
yeah.
said he's probably been told from another club and manager to start helping get the ball rolling. Which, yeah, I have no doubt this is City's in the ear of him saying, "Look, it's 150 million. You throw your toys out. Maybe we can get down to 130, 120." And we'll start to wrap up. And George just said, imagine how lucky it would be if we signed Kane on a free after City failed to get a deal done for 3 years.
I'm
Running.
in the Haaland basket, mate. Not touching Harry Kane.
I think a lot of people are sort of sleeping on that one at the moment and forgetting how likely, not likely, but how I think Solskjaer's number one target. We're talking about Varane, we're talking about Sancho. I still think deep down, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's number one target is Erling Haaland, and just he's hoping he's at Dortmund next year, and we go into that race and 10 clubs around world football throw the 75 million at Dortmund, and then it's Haaland's choice. And obviously it's not just Haaland's choice, it's Mino Raiola's choice, but I'm thinking that is what Solskjaer deep down is banking on. That we
Let me ask you, Tom. If you were rating out of 10 today, will United sign Erling Haaland next season? What would you score that?
I don't want to say 5 out of 10 like 50-50, but I would say a 5 out of 10 in regards to, I would say a Manchester City or a Chelsea might be at a 7 or 8 out of 10.
No, I'm not with you there. I think United are a shoe-in. I really do.
You think? Well,
We were
okay,
close to getting him last time. So
that's next season. Do you think he potentially moves this season? And then
no, I'm talking about next season. I don't think he'll move this season. There's no way Borussia Dortmund are not selling Sancho and Haaland in one transfer window. No way.
Yeah. Yeah, no, look, I would agree with you, but then I know that would definitely change in Dortmund's hands if someone gives him 150 million in cash. That obviously changes things. But it pretty much wraps it up for tonight. I'm not sure when United's next game is. I think it is Saturday against Everton, but whether they get another fixture or two, I'm hoping they do. They might play one of the Scottish teams up there. I'm not sure where in Scotland they are based, but I'd like to see them get another game in because I'm sure that game against Preston would have been very important for the preparation. But if you have enjoyed the video or just like the video, please, and if you aren't subscribed, please subscribe. Hopefully, if you watch on delay, there is no issues, but it is something we're working on. We might sort of maybe a couple of times a week throw those, what we did last night, record a video earlier and throw one of those premieres up. So it goes up like a live video where you can still interact in the comments with everyone. But it's obviously pre-recorded. We might do a few of those, especially when we have a guest. We do have a few guests lined up over the next couple of weeks. And,
Tom, I'm replacing you. See, look at Tom Greenwell. Smart man. Lock it in, Larry. See, that's what a smart Tom would do. When you agree with Larry, you're living life in the fast lane. Good man.
Have you got the money to lock in Erling Haaland?
I'll check my bank account and I'll let you know in the next one.
So wait on FIFA 22. When FIFA 22 comes out, to be first name on your shortlist. But yes, hopefully everyone did enjoy that video and a little bit of United content to break up lockdown. If you are in Sydney, if you're in another part of the world, you're probably better off than we are at the moment. So hopefully you are enjoying your freedom. Please like the video. As I said, make sure you subscribe, getting closer to 100 subscribers, and we'll have something to discuss tomorrow. Hopefully a Varane picture. Maybe he's in Manchester close to it, and hopefully they can unveil him. I'm sure sometime this week they will. So until then, Larry, have a good night, and I'll chat to you first thing in the morning, probably when we've got something to talk about.
Sounds good, mate. Take care. See ya.